Hello, my name is David and I'm the David Howell Rees of Howell Rees Artist. In this video I want to convey how I paint pets using facsimiles of oil paint brushes and age-old oil paint techniques on a computer. The example that you see in front of you is a dog called Benji. Benji is a dog that I first painted over a year ago, and it's still one of my favourite paintings. And I thought for this video I would have a go at painting Benji again from scratch. The photograph that you see on the screen in front of you is from the client. It's probably taken with a smartphone, and it is a good example of a smartphone photograph of the sort that we work from. However, from a painting point of view, it has three issues that need to be overcome. One is that the background needs to be replaced, because it's not really a painterly background. A painterly background is simple and deliberately so that it doesn't distract attention away from the subject, and particularly in this case the subject's face, which is very appealing. The second issue that needs to be sorted out is the fact that one of his forepaws has got slightly cropped out in the image. I'm going to have to paint that in. And thirdly, we use a slightly different arrangement of space in a painting to that which is used in a photograph. This is quite typical of a photograph, where one is told all the time to fill the frame. Well, in a painting we don't fill the frame quite so much as you would in a photograph. So I'm going to have to create a little bit more space to Benji's left and Benji's right, in order that, and underneath him actually as well, in order that he sits more comfortably within a painting rather than within a photograph. So the only other thing to say before we get going is that this process of painting takes several hours, and I'm not expecting you to sit through several hours of me painting. So I've used time-lapse techniques to compress this to about, from here on, about 10 minutes. Okay, so first of all we're setting up the image and creating that space that I talked about to his left and right and underneath him. That's very simple to do in Photoshop, which is the software that I use to paint. And having done that, I'm now going to select Benji and the settee that he's sitting on in order to get rid of the background. I want to preserve him. Obviously he's the subject, but also I want to preserve the red leather settee that he's jumped up on, because that, his owner told me, is a very characteristic thing that he does, and it's something that's very special to the owner. So I'm just now creating in the software an area which is defined as the subject, and I'm getting rid of the rest. So now you can see that that sort of black and or grey and white hatched area, that's transparent. So I'm now bringing in a background, pre-painted background. Painting backgrounds takes quite a long time, and it's not the most interesting thing for you to see. And I'm just adjusting the hue and saturation and the color balance of that, so that the background sits nicely behind Benji and complements him. Do a save, that's always good. Now I'm just sort of helping myself for future reference by giving the different layers meaningful names. And here we go, we're now actually starting to paint. And I'm painting the settee first of all. It may seem a bit odd, but actually you work your way up to painting the subject. You do the background first. So get rid of it, and not really getting rid of it, but you paint that first, and then any other bits around the subject, and then you paint the subject last. May seem a slightly odd way to go about things, but there are various reasons why it makes a certain amount of sense practically during the painting process. You can see here I'm just pushing the paint out to the edge of the space that I created. It all looks very rapid. This is going many times faster than I would than I did in real life. But here we go, just adding colour down at the bottom, just to create some space around him to give him nice context. But what I certainly don't want to do is create anything which distracts the eye down to this bottom part of the painting, because it's really just there to create a sense of context. So there's not a huge amount of detail down there, but it does an important job. Now I'm just sort of refining the edge of the settee, and there we go. We're ready now to paint start painting Benji. Now, furry animals, you always start from the extremities and move in. If you think about it, fur is layered, and you always, if you start from the inside and work out, you're putting layers of fur into the painting in the wrong order. You need to start with the outsides and work inwards so that the layers work properly. The layers of fur work properly and lie on top of each other as they do in real life. So I just started. I painted one leg. I painted both legs actually. And I'm now on the main body. Just for information, what you're seeing here compressed into about 10 minutes of painting time actually took about an hour and a quarter. There we go. Now we're going up the other leg, again starting from the outside and moving in. And if you're very observant, you might see that I'm occasionally changing the size of the brush to achieve specific effects. And you also see the picture flashing on and off. What I'm doing there is I'm turning off the original photograph that I'm painting from, just to see where I've missed parts of left holes in the paint, as it were. Okay, so we nearly finished the lower part of the body, but now I've got to correct this missing forepaw. So just bringing down some, he's got fairly hairy feet, so it doesn't sort of, I don't need to show claws or anything, but I just wanted to put in a suggestion of a paw. What I'm doing now is, if you look at other parts of his legs, you can see there's a bit of shadow, a bit of darker area on the settee. So I'm adding that in to give a sense of depth, and to let's just make the image slightly more three-dimensional. Now, when I'm painting a dog, one of the decisions I have to take with the owner is whether any collar or harness is to be retained in the image. In this case, the owner wanted the collar retained, so that's what I'm doing. I'm painting it now. it doesn't have to be hugely detailed. It just needs to show it's a collar. Checking for holes again. Checking some there, some edges down. If owners want the collars or harnesses removed, then that's something which we can easily do as well. What I'm doing here is just saving myself a little bit of work later on. The masking process that I use to get rid of the background does, if you have a dark background behind the animal, it does tend to leave the animal with a dark fringe, which I mean, obviously Benji's not a dark-haired dog, but the masking picked up that darker background, and I'm just getting rid of it basically. Going around now, starting to paint his head again, going from the outside and working in. So painting the ears first, giving him a slightly sort of less. I think he'd been out playing or in the garden or something, because he was fairly tangled up. As I paint his fur, I'm untangling him a little bit, just to to make him more presentable. Painting forehead, and started to paint around the eyes. I will come back and paint the eyes, so you will see an eyeless dog in a few minutes, which is a little bit disconcerting if you're not used to the process. Just painting around the other eye, working down his cheeks. Got to give Pierre a sense of the fact that he has got a snout, if that's the right term. I'm putting some shadow into the side of the snout so that it gives a three-dimensional effect. Now, painting the loose hairs that come down over the collar. Just doing a little bit more tidying up around the edges, just before we come to the critical bit of the painting, which is painting his nose and his eyes. If the eyes particularly are wrong, then however good the rest of the painting is, it won't be acceptable. So just painting his nose. And now coming to the critical bit, using a different brush here, and gradually painting around the sort of skin areas around the eye, and particularly giving him a pupil, and what's called a catch light. That little spot of light that I've painted is much simpler than the reflection through a window that was there before, but it just sort of giving him a black pupil and a spotlight and a catch light. And a counter catch light as well, actually. And there we go. There we are. So the last thing is, I was put in a signature, and I decided to put him in the bottom right, and yeah, it's about the right sort of size. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you found that to be useful and informative. And if you have any questions, I'm on all sorts of social media and a website, and I love to speak to people about what I do. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great day.